right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Make Money and Have Fun show. Today, I believe we're already up to episode number 6, and these are flying by. I'm just having a blast doing these every week. I'm bringing out superstars. I'm bringing out people who are in their businesses making money and having fun. They've already bridged that gap between their passion and their prosperity, and now they are achieving success. And I want to interview them to break down the things that they're doing that are working and the things that maybe are not working so that I can help myself as well as other entrepreneurs and investors and aspiring entrepreneurs and investors get from where we are now to that place as well, where we're bridging that gap between our passion and our prosperity. So today we're talking to a good friend of mine, Mr. Ian Walsh. So Ian Walsh is a full-time real estate investor since 2009. He built a property management company as well, which he sold in 2015. So now, during his time in the Philadelphia investment market, he partnered with a company called Hard Money Bankers and has since underwritten all of the loans in Eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the Delaware market. So let's chat with Mr. Ian Walsh. Get in here, Ian. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up? What's up? Dude, you got the cool background going on and all kinds of fun stuff over there.
You know, it was like because I have a crappy background otherwise, it's like $30 on Amazon to get like a green screen. So I just got the green screen and said, "Hey, let's go with that." This is pre-COVID, by the way. So I was one of the originals.
There you go, man. There you go. It's funny that you bring up COVID, because I kind of started doing this a little bit out of necessity because of COVID being here, but just really because it's fun. I just love bringing people on. And I love chatting about different stuff. So I always ask everybody, the first question I ask all my guests is the same question, and you are free to answer this however you'd like. I will just say that disclaimer, I do like to keep these around 30 to 45 minutes just for everybody's attention span. So let's not go too far down a rabbit hole. But my question is, what is your story?
So my story is, I guess if we go back to, I've always loved money. Always just loved it from like a young age. And I've always been unconventional with the way I pursue it. After I had a couple hourly jobs and I was like, this is not how I get the things I want. And, even in high school, I remember my senior year of high school, I pretty much just stopped going to high school for like 6 months. I figured out how I could still like graduate because I wanted to build a website business that was, at the time I didn't know much, but me and another 16-year-old kid were building this business, and he had started it. And then I kind of jumped in with him, and I spent all this time, the 6 months building it. I went to college, and he ended up taking the business and selling it for $1 million. Wow. And so, I mean, and I have no hard feelings. Great guy. It's actually 100% my fault for not, whatever. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I learned a lot from that. And then I learned really hard to work hard in college. I did some jobs, but always was chasing money hard, and not chasing, but acquiring. So,
right.
And then I took on so I worked for this college painting company. I don't even know if they're still around. I'm sure they are.
Okay.
But you run your own business and you paint houses for the summer. And then, I made, I don't know, like 8 or 10 grand in a summer or something. It was like a ton of money back then.
Right.
And then I stayed with that for 4 years, grew to like vice president of the company in the East Coast by the time I was like 22. And I was like, wow, it sounds great, whatever. It's just a stupid title. But, but I was more, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad right when I was like coming out of not graduating college. And cause I was like, and what happened was, I saw the line about wholesaling a property or something Robert Kiyosaki mentioned, and I was like, okay, he made 40 grand in like an afternoon, like flipping a property, and I was like, wow, I need to figure out what this is. And then I ended up pursuing. I was like, I'm gonna go figure this out, and I was never afraid to fail or make mistakes. It was just never in my DNA. I was always okay with it. As long as I hedged my risk and felt comfortable, I would go with it. So I said to my dad, hey, I want to do this thing called wholesaling. Now, if you're not in our business, like you have no idea what that is. Like that is not like, right. What is that? Right. So, but if you're in the business, wholesaling is, everybody knows. So, he goes, no, you can, you need a realtor, you need this. I was like, nah, I was like, so that was all the motivation I needed to be like,
Nah.
I'm doing the deal. My dad said no, right? So
Right.
I did my first deal, made like $1,000 or something. Just struggled my way through it. It was more to like show it could be done. Did my second or third deal was actually when I was living in a condo, and it was like I went and did some marketing around the neighborhood. I was actually just posting notes on doors and ended up buying the guy's or wholesaling the guy's house directly across from my balcony. And I learned from that lesson there, which was like there's more millionaires literally in your own backyard than most people give credit to. And then from there, I realized what wholesaling was. I outgrew my area in Burlington City, New Jersey pretty quickly. And just said, I was all right, the next biggest thing is Philadelphia. So I moved to Philadelphia, saw some We Buy Houses signs and stuff, ended up calling a guy on one of them. I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm doing this thing called wholesaling. I was like, cool, I'm doing that too. You want to meet? So we go to a diner, have like lunch, and the next thing you know, we never signed a document, but 10 years later, we were still partners. And we used to wholesale hundreds of properties in the Philadelphia market. And that's where I learned how to like build and run a business.
Okay.
Good and bad. I definitely made plenty of mistakes. How to learn how to balance cash flow and all that fun stuff.
Sure. Definitely some learning curves there.
Yeah, for sure. But then in order to what I was to balance the cash flow and have more consistency or whatever, I always said, oh, let's build a property management company. It seems easy. It was easily the hardest part of real estate. Like I don't wish that upon anybody to build one of those companies.
Yeah.
But I then spent quite a bit more time, but before I knew it, it took over my time. And then we built it up, and I met Ben Aller with TCS, and he met me at a bar one day and started talking, and he goes, we'll pay this much for your company. And I was like, all right, cool. Within an hour, that was it, sold. And then and probably about 2 years prior to that, I knew how to lend. I had all the skills at that point, and my partners in Maryland had been lending hard money bankers, and I said, let's bring the capital up here. So as we were selling the management company, we were deploying capital up here, and that's what I do now. That's what I love. I really enjoy it, and that's. I always say to people in real estate, you can make money in any avenue of real estate. It does not matter.
Sure.
But as long as it fits your personality, where I see, over the years, I've met thousands of investors, whether it was through wholesaling or the thousands of clients we've met in property management, or probably thousands in lending at this point. So I've met all these personalities, and I always see the ones that succeed are the ones that choose the skills or choose the real estate investment vehicle to match their personality. It's really important, because when you don't have a match, it's catastrophic.
Of course. That's like the biggest thing. And that's really what I mean by the title of this show. I recently did a presentation at Investor Schooling where I work at. And the title of the presentation was, what kind of investor are you? Mm-hmm. Because I find a lot of people that do the opposite. They see the ad for wholesaling or the no money, no credit kind of hooks, and then they just jump right into that. But it doesn't work for everybody's personality type, like you're saying, right?
Right. So the issue with what happens, I think, there, and you run into it a lot, people get mixed between what they dream they want to be or what they dream they think they should be doing. So somebody thinks it's sexy to flip houses, and they see it on TV and they want to make $100,000.
Sure.
But their personality is more they're not dynamic people. They don't take big risks. They're not comfortable with big risks. They're not. So all these things, if you take who they are on one side versus what the pipe dream is on the other side, and when they're so far apart, it just ends up in an explosion. I used to see it all the time.
Sure.
In property management. That was where it really became evident to me as to how that really works.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to address, we have a couple people here. If you're with us, just say hello. The really cool thing is that we can actually bring up your comments right on screen. So if you have a question for Ian or a question that you want me to ask Ian, type it right down in the comments. We can actually bring it right up on screen, and we can ask him any of your questions if you're here live with us. But Ian, I want to chat some more about this property management company. So it's funny because I actually thought about at some point creating a property management company as well, which it seems to be, I guess, kind of like a rite of passage for real estate investors. Is it as hard as every property manager says it is?
To do it well? Yeah. Yeah. There's a huge difference. Everybody out there starts their own property management company. And, it's because it seems so easy on the surface. Collect some rents, do this. To do it well, which I still don't believe that there's very many companies out there that do it well. Like, it's really, really rare. Because you have to be so to build a property management company, what you have to have in your pedigree or in your DNA has to be systems oriented and operational. That is really what should be in your DNA. Now, the weird thing about that for my personal DNA is that I'm pretty good at it. That's the way my mind thinks, but I don't like it. So I'm like the opposite of like what I was talking about with the flipper and the personality. So like if you said like, come in, scale my business, put the operations in place, get the players involved, you know what you're looking for. Like that seems to be something I'm decent at. But I don't like it. So it's a weird combination. So I kind of built it because that's all I knew at the time. But if you want to do it right, man, it is tough. You gotta have the stomach for it. You gotta commit to there's benchmarks while you're scaling. You have to scale the right way, or else, most property management companies are a cluster inside where you have a bunch of people. So what happens is you grow it from like 0 to 50 or 0 to 100 units. And then all of a sudden you need to take on more than like your partner or something. So you go, we're going to hire somebody. You hire somebody, you bring them in-house. Well, you bring them in-house and now you're like, well, what do they do? What's their job description? They're going to do some leasing and some this and some that and this. Right. And then before they know it, they're wearing all these hats. All you've done is transferred your chaos to them. And now you're going to be putting out their fires and your fires, and they're going to be unhappy. So like the scalability and like who to hire, when to hire, is such a juggle. It's a hard game to survive in and be happy and make good money with it. You really don't start to see money until like 500 units. And you feel like you will, but what happens is every 100 units you have to hire somebody or take on additional overhead or whatever it may be. Yeah, or there's some lawsuit or suit. Like it just never really starts to become profitable until that 500 unit plus mark. And then it's something worth looking at, I guess. But
so do you see anything, and we're kind of going down a little bit of a property management rabbit hole, but I'm curious, like, do you see anything in terms of like a systemized property management system, since we're living in like these COVID days and most stuff is done basically like this? Can you visualize something like that working, or do you think that property management is one of those companies that's just always going to have the model that it has?
No, you could build it. No, you could definitely build it in a box. The systems in a box for sure. I mean, by the time we were done, I had, there was a lot of systems put in a box at TCS by the time I had left. So it was but there's a huge but to that, which is the people and the people executing and the departments and the moving pieces that are moving. So like, it's just like building like a piece of software that nobody knows how to use or everybody knows how to use it. So like you also, I learned after going over to the TCS, because I had sold the company but retained some shares to continue to. I was like, I can build. I know I have more in the tank, but then I had the resources of Ben's. Ben's a very resourceful guy. So once I had his resources, I realized what it was like to hire incredible talent. And then there was some really talented people we pulled in. I was like, well, we can afford them. Like before I couldn't, before I was like, I can't spend, there was, paying 80 grand versus 60 grand was a lot for me at the time.
Sure.
Once I sold it, was like, let's hire them. So then by the time it was said and done, there's probably like 30 people on staff, 3,000 units. And they were, some of the best performing individuals I've ever met. And that difference between having, good systems and really good people were crucial. I don't think they work independently of one another to succeed. I think you need, I really believe you need both of those things.
Interesting. So you're kind of one of like an interesting few who has kind of touched all the different aspects of real estate. So you did a little bit of wholesaling, you did a little bit of flipping, you did some buy and holds, and now you're kind of in the money lending realm of it all. Would you say that money lending is your favorite thing to do, like what you're doing now?
So for me, yeah, it matches my personality, right? So like I'm never going to make like 50 or 100 grand on a deal like you could flipping or wholesaling. It just doesn't happen in the lending world. But like I I'm not a very social guy. I prefer to, COVID fits me well. I like being at home. Like I'm a homebody. So, I can analyze deals from here. I'm always about strictly the money. I'm not about how pretty the house looks. I'm not about, making friends on the job. Like the things that I'm very clear about myself with fit lending particularly. So it's probably one of the least sexy avenues of real estate for most people.
Right.
Like it's not appealing to people. Like, what are you
Sure.
doing? They're like, what are you doing? So I'm like doing exactly what I enjoy doing is what it is. So, but yeah, it meets my personality.
It's so funny that you said you're a homebody. I never would have guessed that about you because I've always seen you at networking events and speaking opportunities and different things like that. So to say that you're a homebody is kind of funny.
Well, I'm very selective with it, right? So like, and I'm also I have my priorities so when I first started hard money banking up here, I was 4 or 5 nights a week out at the events that you're talking about and stuff. So, but I knew there was a bigger goal than whatever, whether I wanted to be there or not. And I don't want to say I didn't want to be there, but like, if you gave me a choice, I'd like to be at home, but I had I had fun.
Sure.
For sure. But it was, I was doing that strategically, like narrowing down, okay, which ones monetize, which ones do this, like all that was running through my head. So, and then I figuring out, so now when you see me, it's typically selective scenarios that, fit with, I'm not going to go like 11 a.m. just grab one of those like little luncheons with somebody for, 8 people and 7 of them aren't in our industry. Like I did that. I ran that course. Yeah.
Right. No, I get that. It's basically maximizing your time is the idea behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of see like a different superpower of yours, if you will. It kind of seems like you are very good at starting businesses. So you can take a concept basically from nothing to something and get it going. So a lot of my friends and a lot of the people in my circles are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, people who are basically in startup mode. What would you say to someone like them is like, you think the key to help getting that business off the ground and growing? Like, would it be marketing or sales or what, how do you kind of look at it?
It really depends again on the individual. Getting it off the ground, like, what do you mean? Like what phase? Cause like, I've definitely learned that when you're building a business, there's definitely phases that are synonymous.
Sure. So let's kind of use a practical example here. So Ava's checking us out. She's watching us and she said that she thought of starting a property management company too. So if you had somebody in that place that's like, hey, Ian, I want to start a property management company or, substitute property management with any company, what kind of advice would you give them?
Property management, my advice would be like, choose a different business. But, if you had to start it, okay. So I'd say focus on the systems first.
Okay.
Focus on, I guess a lot of different business focus very much. So you get very attracted in property management to the amount of units. And then in your head, it's always units. So you're taking on any unit, whether you say you're going to do it or not, you can't say no to business in the beginning. It's hard. But in the end, I found out what I would have done from the beginning, any financial issues, any problems, any real headaches, most of the time were not the tenants. Because once you systemize it, the tenants, like it's A or B, like it either is black or white. Where the problems tend to come in is when you don't fit well with the clients, with the owners. So you're actually hiring owners more than you are units and tenants. I would take a great owner that we mesh well with in the heart of, Kensington or North Philly over a pain in the butt owner in, Rittenhouse. And I mean that. Sure. And I've dealt with that. So I've dealt with both sides of that. So you're really hiring owners. You spend the time on the moving pieces, the operations, like, systemizing and streamlining each moving part. Like, just let's take something, for instance, something as simple as like water bill. Well, water bills have a whole process to them, just the online systems. How are you going to do them each month? Who's going to do them? When are they going to do them by? How are they going to get paid? Who are you going to collect from? Are the owners going to pay up first, or are they going to pay? Are you going to float the money? So these are all things you have to work on just for the water bill process. And, then you might have the eviction process. Then you have the leasing process. So all that stuff has to be thought out, implemented, timed, and then executed consistently. And that's why if you're not an operational person or you're not operation oriented, you're going to have somebody involved that is, because
Right.
People that are just not detail oriented will get destroyed in property management.
Sure. I mean, just that description makes me want to like rip my hair out already.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Ava actually said that she changed her mind quickly. So
yeah, I mean,
like it's
not. I don't wish it upon anybody. But I could also say that it's, I would not have given any of that experience back. So, but I wouldn't have done it. I don't know. It's a catch-22. I wouldn't have done it again, but I wouldn't have given it back.
Sure. You don't really regret it, but you kind of wish you never got into it.
Yeah. I learned a lot, so, but I did in wholesaling too. When we're wholesaling 100, 150 deals a year in 2008, I met guys to this day that, call me in hard money banking, whatever. And I met people 10 years ago, some of the biggest players in the city, just because I was moving. I was one of the only guys doing it with myself and my partner. And we were doing a lot. We were the biggest wholesaler back then in the Philadelphia region. And so, I definitely took some licks in that business, but I learned so much. So I don't regret any of the things that I've done. But if I were to give somebody advice or something and say, hey, maybe, or if you're going to do property management, just be very selective of the owners, have the expectation that it could take you 10, 20 years before you really start to turn over a profit. But I wouldn't quit your job tomorrow and start property management. So expectation setting would be very important.
Sure. So let's kind of flip the script out of property management. I want to talk to you about hard money bankers, what it is you do today. So a lot of people come to me looking for money because obviously I'm a real estate investor. I'm in the real estate investing industry. And I always tell them there's different kinds of lenders out there. There's different kinds of hard money lenders, private lenders, banks. So what would you say kind of differentiates you from all of the other types of lending institutions out there?
So we're more like a mom and pop feel type lender than your institutional lenders. So you have institutional, then you have there's only a few companies like ours in the country. And then you have a lot of small local investors that maybe have $1 million that they saved and they want to lend it out. And that's instead of putting it in the Roth IRA or something. So, what you'll find with the institutional, they're going to be more in a box. And a lot of times you're talking to a broker or a front end guy, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's a place for it. They have plenty of money but they're going to be we can do 90-10, 80-20. When you hear all these terms, what's your LTV? What's this? What's that? And if you don't fit in the box, you don't get the deal. And these guys also they're going to wait on appraisals to decide if they really can do the deal or not. And, there's going to be there's pluses and minuses to those companies versus the private lender or hard money lender like myself, so we have the financial firepower that any of the institutional guys have, but we have the flexibility of the smaller private guys. So when you come to somebody like me or a company like mine, I'm going to look at a deal. It's very skill driven in the way that you don't have a bunch of people on staff. You have a few individuals like myself and my partners that know how to underwrite a deal, know how to look at it and go, we're making the decision. We don't need an appraisal. We're ready to close tomorrow, and we can close in 24 hours. And then somebody's gonna be like, well, is it 80-20, 90-10? I don't know. Let me see the deal first and I'll tell you where you're going to be. It doesn't work like that box, and we can get more creative. So it has its advantages and disadvantages. I guess disadvantages would be a little bit more expensive maybe than institutional, but now since post-COVID, most people are not back in the game. Most of them went out of business. And, I've heard some people lending, but not, the pricing, the wars where these people were at 7% annualized and stuff that's done. That's the top of a market type stuff. And then you have your really small private lenders who usually their two biggest limitations are, one, they don't know what they're doing most of the time. So they micromanage your job, or it just gets weird getting to the table, and they're going to tap out of their cash pretty quick. They might, $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but you only do a few deals with $1 million, so you need a lot more than that.
I gotcha. I always described you to people as fast money. One of the things that I think really separates you from a lot of the others is that you can get funding in up to 24 hours, right?
Yeah, I've closed the same day before. So
Yeah, which is like insane. So for me, I always look at velocity of money. You know, is it fast money? Is it slow money? Is it a lot of money? Is it a little and kind of categorize money in those ways. So for you, I always felt like you were the best person to go to for fast money. If someone needs money right away, I would always send them right over to you and kind of get them going and blow them right through.
Sure.
So I definitely, I love that model. It's such a unique kind of in between model, almost like you said, like you're not a private money lender, but you're not this giant corporation either. So you kind of get that personalized feel from it. But we got to talk about something else before we go here. And that is your clothing line. So you have these hoodies and these t-shirts that you send out all the time. And I swear to God, they are made out of like unicorn breath or something, because these are the softest, like best material I've ever seen before. You got to tell me about these. What's your secret, man?
Yeah. So everybody I know wears them. We all wear them. I wear them all the time. I don't even know if I have any other clothes. And not because they're HMB. I mean, it's great that they're HMB, but they're because they're so comfortable.
Right.
Originally we got them actually from years ago from one of our investors that actually, deploys money for us. He owned the company that makes these shirts. So it was just like,
sure.
Recently though, and I won't get into too much detail about it, but we had t-shirts that, how do I say this? Came from overseas, and we ordered about 5,000 of them for like $1 a piece.
Wow.
And so, and I was like, oh man, this sounds like what kind of quality are we going to get? We got them and they're like silk. Wow. I was like, oh my gosh. So, we have just an unlimited amount of these. And then the hoodies always came out good. Yeah. So between those, I don't know. And people like them, just send them out and do competitions and stuff, and people love them. It's great.
It's so I've never seen somebody have such a good marketing campaign behind apparel before, like you. And it's like people like fight over these things. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love it. It's like I like it too. I think it's like it's hip, it's cool, it's fun, and yeah, I mean, I get comments all the time though, about the quality of the actual clothing, you just said. Yeah.
I think I have two of the exact same T-shirts.
Yeah.
And someone asked me like right after, they're like, "Why do you have two of the same?" I'm like, "Have you felt these things?"
Yeah, right.
It's like my loungewear, my sleepwear, my going out wear, my formal wear. It covers everything, and it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, my partners are going to put out, I think, which I'm not a particular fan of. They're doing HMB masks. So
okay,
yeah. So
it's turning this into a political post now.
right. And I'm not gonna. I didn't want Larry to jump on or anything like that. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I will not be. That is not something I will be handing out to people.
Right. So do you just do T-shirts and hoodies right now, or do you have any other kind of merchandise as well?
T-shirts, hoodies. We got a hat. Didn't really like it. What else do we have? That's about. I think that's. We've had other things like tape measures and stuff like that, but like as far as like apparel, yeah, T-shirts and hoodies, and so we have the thinner hoodie, the T-shirt, and then we have a thicker hoodie, like the green one, which a bunch of those here.
Yeah, I love that one. I still wear that one all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I love it. I was like, I got to find out his secret. He's got fairies working in the basement with pixie dust putting these things together.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. That's the secret.
I knew it, man. Dude, this was awesome stuff, man. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I like what you're doing, and I think I always like to support people that are putting themselves out there, because like a lot of people, it's not, I mean, you're an outgoing guy and you enjoy, stuff, but it's hard for a lot of people. So I always like to see when people do stuff like this, because it, there's a lot of value to be gained, and a lot of, because somebody will watch this and they'll refer to this somewhere in their brain, and it'll change their life somewhere. I can tell you, if you do it, like I used to do like these every day, like, about 4 years ago. Like it was, if you go back through like my YouTube channel, you can just see all the people I've interviewed. And I can't tell you now, like down the line, how many times you get comments about and you'll get it. It'll be like, oh man, I saw your video and I did this and it changed my life, or I did this and it changed my life. It really does add up over time.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about for me. It's like the money is a byproduct of that. when
Sure.
I allow people to have that moment. And that's really why I'm doing this every week. And I'm even actually doing it twice a week, some weeks now, where I'm just bringing people on and having fun. And like you said, for me, I don't know what stage fright is. People used to ask me all the time if I got stage fright. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, a lot of people are. I mean, you're fortunate, but a lot of people get terrified. It's a terrifying thought for them. So, and you use that to your not advantage, but you use that well. You know that you don't have it, so you can.
No, I think it turns back to our first conversation that we had, which is like it comes down to people's personalities. Like some people are really great at writing blog posts. Some people are really great on video. So, you focus on your strengths and you leverage your weaknesses and then go from there.
Yeah. I'd say and then in the end, it's all about implementing, the biggest thing I found for, succeeding in any of these businesses is the first question that I found I had to really ask myself or know myself was like being honest with myself. And what that meant was like, who am I? What am I really good at? What do I not like? Versus like, what do I think I like? Or what do I want to, or like maybe what do I want to portray to other people? I know, probably, 3 or 4 years ago, I had a pretty big ego in general. And because I had the background, I had the experience to walk into any room and be like, you're going to need to listen to me. Right.
Yeah.
So, then there was a turning point in my life, which I won't go into too much detail, but it just stripped the ego. It was like partly voluntary, partly involuntary. It stripped my ego down to zero, or as close to zero as I could get. And everybody has some degree of ego.
Sure.
And when that happened, I really just became so clear as to why I was doing what I was doing and what I was going to do moving forward. Like, does it fit into who I am honestly? Like, forget like impressing this person or, upstanding that person or showing my whatever. That whole part of me has been like just dismantled, and that was really relieving. And I think that if I could have done that in the very beginning, I probably wouldn't have spent 7 or 8 years on stuff that was, I look back, was maybe I was proving myself to somebody else, maybe I was proving it to something, whatever, or I had to beat him or beat them or whatever it was. Like if I just started with my ego stripped away from me a decade ago, probably just would have been here 10 times faster.
Yeah.
And the best example of that is my brother, who's my partner in the New Jersey region. And he knew that coming into this, and he came from a tech background, like had no idea, but he knew that when he was going to work with me, first of all, I can be tough to work with, but he knew, exactly what he was in for, dropped all the ego, everything was down. His teachability index was through the roof. And he now probably has done, in call it through 2 or 3 years, more business than most people you're going to meet will do in the next 20 or 30 years. And you're like, how is that possible? But ego was gone and his teachability level was so high. And between those two things, it was just go. And it's impressive what he's pulled off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really something. So it's funny. I'm writing a book, if you don't know, based on this whole philosophy of make money and have fun. And you actually wrote a book too, right? Or were featured in one.
Listen, the part of that you feature to be this way. So my partners go, hey, we're writing a book. Do you want to put your name on it? I was like, all right. I haven't read one page of that book. I just all right, put my name on it. I don't care. So
I was curious why you give away more merchandise than you do your actual book, but that makes sense now.
Yeah. I don't even know. Is it good? I hope it's good. I'll tell you this much. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to be clipping out some stuff. So I'm actually going to read it. I mean, a lot of that is I've known these guys over the year. Like we've been partners for 10 years. So, like there's going to be a lot of excerpts in that book that are real stories about us or real information about us. I just didn't write it or anything. So, yeah.
So funny. Yeah. So funny. But the section that I'm up to is about, finding your passion and stepping into that thing that you actually like. And I love what you said about people just developing a higher level of self-awareness. And when we really know who we are and what it is we want, and not the presupposed ideals of society and what we think we should do because our parents said it or because the school system said it or the government or whatever, but what we actually want to do, that's when everything opens up, like you said. And it just becomes that much greater.
And clearing out the veil of, it's hard to see, like, am I doing this for my, who I am, or am I doing this for, who I think I should be? And that's like, once you clear that up, for me, it took a fairly traumatic situation in a good and bad way. Every traumatic situation has good and bad scenarios. There's actually two things that happened to me that were both, very traumatic, but it just like shreds you to the soul. And then you rebuild in a way that, as you look back, it brings you to a different level, or brought me to a different level. I don't know about everybody else. And I don't know that that's necessary. I just think that if I could leave this conversation for other people, would be, if the lady was talking about starting a management company, it would be like, really figure out who you are and what you want for you, not for anyone else, for any other reason. And say, does property management, is that the thing that best fulfills that, what I'm trying to do? I'm guessing the answer is probably no with property management, but if you can answer that question very honestly, I would have found my path of least resistance much faster. I did not take a path of least resistance. That was now I do. Now I definitely do.
There you go. I love it. I love it. This was awesome, man. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Ian?
Email is fine at the bottom of the screen, ian@hardmoneybankers.com, or they can call me 215-839-3271.
Gotcha. You just throw your number up here. It's 215-839.
215-839-3271.
3271. Bam. So if you want to get in touch with Ian, give him a call or send him an email, and you can chat about life, liberty, and business at this point.
Sure.
Ian, this was awesome, man. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see everybody next time.
All right, Fred, take care.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.
Bye.